1997, I moved to New York City, and I go to work for the original lighting and sound company, who I will belovingly refer to as Helen Keller Sound and Lighting. Now, I call them that for a very simple reason. We had blind lighting people, and we had deaf audio people. Helen Keller Sound and Lighting seemed to really fit. Now they were the original sound and lighting company, and every tour that I saw growing up in the 70s was lighting provided by this company. They got involved in audio in the 80s, and the owner always told me he regretted it for a number of reasons that I will tell on another time. But every day there was very, very interesting. This was the company that did Woodstock. This was the company that did, the Fillmore East and back in the day, all the original tours. The company that literally invented concert lighting touring. The originals. And they were original, all right, and they had original bunch of characters there that were just unbelievable. Now, coming from Cleveland, Ohio, I was working for an audio company that was very corporate. They didn't like people that had long hair. They didn't like it if you wore a t-shirt in the shop that had a heavy metal band on it. They were super, super corporate. So from go to that to this place, which is, I called it as the world's only indoor trailer park. It was just some culture shock, right? And there's a lot of characters that were there, and I'll tell you who I thought was one of the most interesting characters was the janitor. I never really got his name. He would only pronounce his name as Green, and that was how we knew him. He had definitely had some kind of mental problem, and they said he had Tourette's, he had this, he had that. He definitely had something wrong with him. And it's nice that a guy like that could have a place to go every day and get out of the house and do whatever. But he was completely interesting. Let's call it that. One day I come to work and I'm blowing in right before lunchtime. And I walk in, and Green has taken a 12-inch leg from a drum riser, which we had there, and he had strapped it to his body like a strap-on penis using about a roll of duct tape. And he was in the corner having sex with a milk crate. Now, I'm imagining he was like having slow, passionate sex with this milk crate. He was getting down on it. He was all rapido and rapping on it, and like, what is going on over here? And my buddy says to me, well, what do you want to do for lunch? I'm like, what do I want to do for lunch? What do we want to do about this? It was just so, like, we would just work around him while he's banging the milk crate in the corner. And nobody said anything. It was just no big deal with this guy. And it was just so crazy. And one of his hobbies was every time the UPS guy would show up with a package, he would get right up close to him and he'd whisper in his ear, "I like to have sex with my grandparents." Just say all this crazy shit, The UPS guy ended up just throwing a lot of shit on the sidewalk. Who knows why, right? So my favorite story about him is I show up one day to work, and I got to prep a show that we're going to put in the truck that day, and we're going to do the show the very next day. So you got to organize everything and get everything together. And I'd like to tip the mixing consoles. What that means is tip it over, take the lid off it, put the labels on it, get all the patchwork. So it's a bunch of shit that I don't have to do when I'm at the gig, right? So I show up there, and what do you think I see? I see Epi the truck driver, and Ring has completely taken apart not one, but both mixing consoles that I'm taking to the show the next day. Now, Harry, the shop foreman, told them to do it, to clean the console. And clean the console, he meant get a brush and brush the dust off it. That's considered cleaning the console. You know what they did? They took every single knob off those two mixing consoles and they put them in this dissolvent, and they completely dissolved all the color and the lines on every single knob. Now, if you know anything about electronics, soap and water is not a good combination, first off. Second off, the line's very important because it's the difference between turning up between 1 and 10 is the fucking line, knowing where the line is. And now I got thousands of knobs that have been stripped of color and lines, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to have a heart attack, I'm like, guys, please, Jesus, stop what you're doing. go somewhere else, do something else, and please bother somebody else. I'm just freaked out to the max. Now I got to put this thing back together myself. I'm panicked. I got so much other stuff to do, and please, guys, just get away from me, right? So now I'm in this process. I got to put these consoles back together. With these now I got all thousands of mystery knobs. Doesn't matter now where anything goes, no color and no lines, right? And a few minutes later, these guys come back into the sound shop, and you know what? They got swords. They each have a sword, and has found a way to put that 12-inch steel penis back on his body. So he's got that stage-like penis hanging off him. He's got the sword, and he's also wearing a cape. It's like I got D'Artagnan and Earl Flynn running through the sound shop here. And no one's saying a thing. No one's saying anything. People just talking, have a conversation. Well, the sword fight's going on around us, right? And I'm just trying to put the console back together, and I'm just so irritated by all this nonsense around me. And the head of lighting guy comes in, pulls up to chair, sits next to me, goes, "Hey, Pete, what's happening?" I tell you what's happening. And I explain about the knobs. He goes, "Hey, guys, did you see he's got a cape on, huh?" I was like, "I know. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?" He goes, "Yeah, I made him that cape. Nice, huh?" And you know the best part of the cape? The best part of the cape is when he turned around, I had seen that there was a message on the back of it written in gaff tape that said, "Fuck me." You know, so I got "fuck me" and Eppie the truck driver having a sword fight around me. Just an average day in the sound shop there. I mean, and I gotta tell you something, that is not even close to the craziest story about living and working in New York City at Helen Keller Sound and Lighting.